Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Irish Boxing Forum. This is episode number 6 and I'm Steve Wellings from Irish Boxing Review. I'm joined today on the panel by Jonny Stapleton of irishboxing.com and Niall Doran, still of Doran's Boxing Blog. Niall, how's it going?
Not too bad, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much for coming on, Niall. It's great to hear from you.
Pleasure as always, Steve.
And Jonny, how's it going? Did you make the trip back from Belfast okay on Saturday night?
Yeah, I was just saying that I got a lift off Tommy McCormick, the cutman, so it was an interesting one. Few nice to see and hear from that end of things and how he operates and such.
It's great insight, and Tommy does a great job. He's always in Tennyson's corner, and I think he does Paul Hyland's corner as well, so he's always a familiar face at ringside in a lot of the Irish boxing shows at the moment. Well, the show we were actually referring to there was Mark Dunlop's show. It was entitled The Test on Saturday, March the 28th in the Andersonstown Leisure Centre. It was the first time that professional boxing had been in the Andersonstown Leisure Centre since 2006 when Damien Kelly was robbed, I think it's fair to say, against Simone Maladrotou for the European title. But it was great to see the lads back in action again. There was good wins for Dee Walsh and Paul Hyland, James Fryers. Unfortunately, Daniel McShane didn't get the win, but Joe Hillaby did, and so did James Tennyson, obviously, in the main event. He beat Chris Hughes, I've nearly forgot his name then, the Scottish Southpaw, for the Celtic featherweight title by 7th round disqualification. Jonny, you were there as well. You saw exactly what went down. It wasn't the most emphatic victory for James. He wasn't able to particularly look good because of Chris Hughes' style and the way he was gripping and grappling and clinching, and I think there was no argument with the disqualification by Ian John Lewis in the end. It was just a matter of time, wasn't it, with Hughes' tactics?
Definitely. I don't think it's been a while, definitely a while since I've seen a fight where someone held so much, and then when he was getting warned for holding, he decided to start to bury the head in it. You might think it would take a bit of gloss off the victory, when you see DQ, but the reason he got disqualified, and I think he was saying to you as much afterwards, Dave, is that Tennyson was too strong for him. He realised in the second round, so he had to hold. So in that regard, Tennyson didn't get to show his boxing skills, but he admitted that he was never going to win the fight, and Tennyson was too good for him, so that's why he decided to spoil. So when you see DQ on the record, you think, oh, maybe did he hit him low, or did Tennyson hit him, or did he hit Tennyson on the ground, or when you see disqualification, people might raise an eyebrow, but basically he was disqualified because he wasn't able for him. And we probably talked about Tennyson getting his man strength, but maybe we underestimated the strength he has because Hughes basically said he was way too strong.
Yeah, and Chris Hughes has obviously fought at a decent level. We know he's not the biggest puncher in the world, but he'd been in with Carl Frampton. He'd lasted 7 rounds with him, and he'd fought in and around that sort of Celtic or British title level, and he's definitely a decent operator. James is only 21. He's talking about moving up to super featherweight. He was too strong at the end of the day. So, do you think he should move up to super featherweight, or would you like to see him pursue the British title at featherweight, which he's obviously coming in line for next, we believe?
Well, they know better in the camp, and he had to go away for an hour to make weight on Friday. Now I don't know whether he was struggling or he just miscalculated. But it seems strange to get into British title contention and then to go up to super featherweight, and even if he was having to work hard to make the weight, he was still too strong at that. And as you admitted, he probably only lost the top level fighters and people that have gone on to do big things, such as Carl Frampton and Tennyson. Then Tennyson done a job, or what was going to do a job on him, if let do a job on him. I think it'd be strange to go for super featherweight. I don't know what you think yourself. I presume that's an in-camp decision. In terms of the only reason to go up would be if you were struggling to make the weight, not for any other reason at the minute, because you're in line for a British title shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to move up or not, but I suppose we can ask the man himself, promoter Mark Dunlop. Mark, are you on the line there?
Yes, hi, Steve, alright?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks very much for joining us. Jonny was just posing the question there about what's next for James. Obviously, you're a fighter. You're the head of MHD Promotions. Where are you looking to take James next? Is it going to be super featherweight or the featherweight title?
What's the talk about, Fryers or Tennyson?
James Tennyson, sorry, Mark.
King James, you mean?
King James, the Celtic champion.
Yes. Well, obviously, what a fight, and I'm delighted that it was, a good tough fight for James, because obviously, he's been knocking everybody dead, so he needed that good tough experience, the battle, the cut. It was a real tough, hard fight, and as you all seen yourself, he came through it no problem. But obviously, he got 6 stitches over his right eye, so we're going to have to give that a bit of time to heal. But obviously, all being well, I would try and still get him out on the 6th of June in the Devonish.
Mm-hmm. That's your next show, isn't it, coming up, Mark? Do you think James he's going to be in a non-title fight, or do you think he might be defend the Celtic? Or he had the cut, didn't he? So...
Yes. No. What will happen now is basically, obviously, we're in line for a shot at the British title. Now, my personal opinion is, obviously, Frank Warren's won the purse bids to stage that fight, and I was watching Box Nation the other night, and they're obviously trying to, gift that Mitchell Smith v. Ram Waltz, hoping that all goes to plan. But obviously, as you've seen on Saturday night, not everything always does go to plan. So there's a possibility that, that obviously the Tennyson's record's unbelievable, and he's not won that. Once you win the British title, whoever wins that has 90 days to defend it. But most often try and slip in a voluntary before they have to fight the mandatory. Now, James isn't a mandatory yet, but I wouldn't imagine he'll get his shot until he is mandatory, because he's the one that the board will say, whenever you go to win your belt outright, it's never an easy task. So they put the toughest kid in there. So I'm happy to go ahead and wait my turn, because I'll have a go at, obviously, the purse bids for that fight. So, and try and get that back in Belfast. But as I say, who knows? I mean, at the end of the day too, one of these other 2 kids could pull out, or someone could get injured. So we'll keep ticking over and just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, that vacant title fight is between Ryan Walsh and Shamir Munemni, isn't it? I mean, you don't really mind whichever one he fights, the way James is looking at the moment, do you?
I'll be honest with you, look, when you get to that level, it doesn't matter. You've got to beat them all. You've got to beat them all to be the champion. And so whoever it is, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Mark, I have Jonny Stapleton from irishboxing.com on here. Jonny, do you want to ask Mark anything?
Just what would the time frame be there from Mark for that? If you were looking at waiting around, would it be at the tail end of this year or early next year? And
I'd imagine it'll be next season sometime. Which is basically, I know in England they box through the summer, where we historically stop at the end of June. So I reckon it'll be sometime next season. I'll be going again, obviously, late September, October. But I'm not going to sit and wait on myself. I like to keep them more busy. So whenever the opportunity comes, there's no excuse. They're either good enough or they're not good enough.
Was there any stage in the fight where you were worried with the head and the holding? And I know
no, because it would have went to the judges anyway, and obviously go well ahead in points anyway. If it had been stopped. But I'll be honest with you, and this is 100%. Everyone said to me, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, the James Farr's fight. Said to me, basically, was I worried about that fight? The Tennyson fight, Chris Hughes. But if you could see, like, Tennyson and Farr's locked away for a month of solid sparring, right? And see that sparring, I'm telling you, it was like watching 2 world champions. It was fantastic. It was toe to toe every day. One day one got the better, the next got the better. It was unbelievable. Now, whenever I seen what James Farr's done that night, I knew there's no way Chris Hughes would beat Tennyson that night. So, I'm delighted to have 2 little stuff there,
It's a nice segue to the Friars fight. It was an unbelievable performance from James.
It was unbelievable. I mean, again, I always say I don't take fights I can't win. So if I take a fight, I fancy it. But what I'm saying is it shocked me in the manner of what he done. We were expecting I was expecting the same as you for James to totally outbox Mark Morris, but Mark threw some leather, didn't he? And James took it and come back with his own bombs, you know. It was just
That was a real 50-50, wasn't it? Those are the type of fights that the local crowds go wild for, isn't it? Morris against Fryers, 2 unbeaten Belfast guys. That was really good matchmaking.
Yes, but I mean, the method of my badness for it was I knew that the winner at that point would be highly ranked, you know, and basically, and I did fancy Fryers because I could see what him and Tennyson were doing together in the gym. So I dove at the fight, and so did James. And so did James's coaches. We thought we'll have a go, you know. And to be honest with you, like, you know, Fryers was unbeaten for 7 years as an amateur. You know, he was robbed in an Irish senior final at 17. You know, with that sort of pedigree, you know, even he actually beat, you know, Tennyson 21-19 in the Ulsters. That was some fight as well. So the two of them of a muchness. So, like, I was delighted, you know, to be able to sign the kid and you know, all the boys who are saying I do my best for them, as you know, and try and get them all belts, and it's just happened that, you know, Fryers has had 2 in a row now. It's unbelievable, and, you know, he never complains, you know, and he's delighted with the opportunity, and if you have a kid like that there, then it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's half the battle, isn't it, with the attitude?
Yeah,
one of the
unbelievable. Him, Dee Walsh, and basically James Tennyson, the nicest D kids you can meet. There's never a problem. Nothing's ever a problem. You know, so how can you go wrong there?
Yeah, well, I was actually going to mention Dee Walsh. We have Niall Doran on the line with us from Doran's boxing blog,
right.
And I've done a few pieces myself for the blog, Niall, on Dee Walsh, and I know you're, from what you've seen on YouTube, Niall, you're a fan of Dee. Is there anything you want to say to Mark regarding Dee Walsh or his future?
Yeah, how's it going, Mark?
Hi,
Good to hear. We did a piece on Dee there not too long ago, and we're just going to ask you what's next for Dee, or what would...
Well, I'm actually in negotiations with a few fighters. There's plenty of options, you know, for Dee Walsh. You know, that's the exciting thing. You know, he's an exciting kid, and the options are there for him. Obviously, as you all know, I'm trying to get them all fixed up with, you know, with major promoters, but at the same time, we're not going to sit and wait, because, you know, the old saying, if Muhammad won't come to the mountain, you know, then the mountain will come to Muhammad. And Dee Walsh, you know, will most likely defend his Irish title, you know, on the 6th of June. If not, we'll go for the Celtic, as was said on Saturday night. There's plenty of options for him, you know.
Great stuff. And would you be looking to kind of push him down towards, like, British title, Commonwealth title route in a few
Yes.
time?
I mean, he's won the Irish title. It'd be nice to defend it. We were hoping for the Hogan fight, and he wouldn't take it. But I'm talking to, you know, well, there's a couple of names. One of the names is Kid Shamrock, you know, that he's been calling Dee out a bit. So that's one I would fancy if I got that on TV. You know, the Mickey, or what's the guy's name? Shane Erie's son.
Shane Erie's son, yeah.
Metcalf. That's a fight we would dive at. I've already been asked about that a while ago. But as I say, you know, plenty of options there for Dee Walsh coming up in the next 6 months. Like, again, Dee Walsh, you know, he's 25 now, I think it is. So he doesn't want to hang about either, you know.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, Mark. Keep up the good work with the shows up in the north part of the country.
Yes, thank you. Hopefully we'll see you up there one day. Ban a ticket off me.
Absolutely.
Mark, regarding Dee Walsh, actually, one guy who is moving down to light middleweight is Anthony Fitzgerald. Would that be someone who would interest you in the future?
Anthony's a great kid. There's no problem there with the fight. You know, at the end of the day, too, it's okay saying they're going to move up or they're going to move down. Until they actually do the weight, you know, you can't even start talking about hypothetical fights where, say I made that fight, you know, and we go all the way and Dee does 11 stone, and that kid was, I watched his fight on YouTube the other night, where he was meant to be light middle, but he boxed at 11.5. You know, it's okay saying you can do something, but you have to do it and get to the weight. Now I'm sure he can if he says he can, but as I say, at this minute in time, I'm talking to people already, you know, because obviously, as you know yourself, the Irish title is a stepping stone. As I say, to, you know, we're looking to move on to bigger and better, you know, it's like the film with James Tennyson. You know, so the fight doesn't frighten anybody, put it that way. You know, and to me, that's another fight, same as the the Metcalf fight, their TV fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah, before we let you go, Mark, just a quick word for the... I think there's a car going the back past Jonny. You haven't got run over, have you, Jonny? Not to worry. Sorry, Mark, I was just going to say, before we let you go, just a quick word on the other two fighters on the card. There was obviously polar opposites of experiences for Daniel McShane, who got an injury, and Paul Hyland, who got his first stoppage.
Yes. Well, what a fight. I just watched that online, or watched the video back there tonight of the Paul Hyland fight. It was fantastic, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Obviously we know, it's the same as anywhere, like the journeymen, they travel. You don't know what you're getting until it arrives. But I had warned them all that if they didn't put up a fight, basically they wouldn't be getting full purse. Now, whenever I spoke, obviously I was, when a fighter builds up for a certain opponent and it falls through, it's demoralising if anything. Paul has heart. I mean, Paul Hyland has got balls like a gorilla. You'd fight, anyone. I have to. It's up as a manager. It's also up to me to protect my fighters as much as possible. And take the chances when the risk's worth the reward. But we fancied the guy that went to the Olympics, and we made that fight. And obviously, Paul's getting a bit of a name for himself in England too. And word travels fast. And because we accepted that fight that no one would take with the Olympian guy, I forget his name, Caesar or something.
Caesar Abdul,
because you accept fights, then people step back and think, oh, Paul Hyland's taking this fight, he must be something. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I got the call, like, whenever I was down to book the flights, that the kid had got a flu. Now, this was 4 weeks out, so, we've all had sniffles, but they don't last that long. But anyway, doesn't change the situation. The kid pulled out, and Paul was, wasn't too pleased, because you build up an idea of someone in your head and what you're going to do and all that, and then all of a sudden it's thrown into the, into the air, and someone else is standing in front of you. But that's boxing. It'll always be the way. So I phoned about, no one would really fight him. So fight him for a reasonable purse. So obviously, and even then, the guy that I know, that promoter, from Hungary, who's the guy's manager and promoter, and I'd seen him fight whenever we were in Hungary before, and he was a tough kid, and obviously he's a good winning record. And one of his last fights, he went to Canada and won 7 rounds with a good prospect, so I knew it would be a tough fight for Paul. But again, Paul, like Dee Walsh, is 24, 25, and like, they're not here to hang about. You know what I mean? They've got to get on with their life and see if they're good enough. Well, obviously they're proven. They're both proven they're good enough, and that fight was a cracker. The finish was a cracker. It was toe-to-toe. I mean, to be fair, the 3 title fights on the night, when you're fighting for a title, it's got to be a good fight, and they were good fights. Even whenever Daniel McShane fought for his title in the Devonish, against that Kovacs, it was a fantastic fight, toe-to-toe, toe-to-toe stuff. And I mean, that Kovacs went on to fight Mitchell Smith and took him the distance. And I thought McShane done a better job that night than Mitchell Smith did. So, Daniel also has, a bit of class, but as I say, he's had a few problems, personal problems over the last 6 months to a year. But he's only 21. He'll come back, and well, we'll see if he'll come back, because, it's not like he get knocked out or anything. He won the first round comfortably, and then, as I say, his arm went. It wasn't nice to see, was it? Let's be honest. We were all ringside, and the agony he was in, Yeah. So, and yes, his opponent wasn't top drawer. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm sure Daniel will be the first to admit that. But at the end of the day, the guy don't even stopped a couple of times. And he's travelled all over the place, and we've had him here a few times, and he's game as a badger. So let's be honest. If there's an old saying: if you're going to lose to someone good. But that kid deserved to win at the end of the day. If it was going to be anybody, why not him? So that's made his. I'm sure that was that kid's world title that night.
Well, it was. He enjoyed his victory, didn't he?
But obviously, like, whenever Daniel's back and ready to go again, that'll be his first fight. We don't mess about. We'll avenge out defeat, like.
Yeah. So you're going out again on June the 6th in the Devonish, then, Mark?
Yes. Well, I've actually. I might have James Farrs on that show, the Eamonn O'Kane undercard, because I've been asked to look after Lewis Taylor. Liz Taylor's manager is a good friend of mine. We're talking about getting together and doing some good promotion. He's got TV, he's got Box Nation, Dennis Hobson, so he's in America that the weekend of that show. So he obviously wants me to look after Liz Taylor on the night. So as I said, I might have James Friars out that night. Most of the other kids, well, Dee Walsh and Paul Hyland, they have to get their medicals sorted out. And James has obviously got the cut. Daniel's injured, so James is the only one I have available for that show. So I think most likely, after he's had a few days off and get back down to earth, he'll maybe stick him on there, see how it goes.
Well, it'd be a great night as always, I know. So, well, thanks very much, Mark. We really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to explain everything to us and give your point of view. And hopefully, we'll be able to get some of your fighters on in the future.
Yes, good man. Make sure you give my number there for some of them tickets to the next show.
No problem, we will do. Right. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thanks, mate.
All the best. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Well, that was Mark Dunlop joining us then, lads. He pretty much went through the whole card there. He was on about the Paul Hyland fight, Jonny. That was a real fun affair, wasn't it, that one? We thought Hyland might have... I don't know if it was a slip or he got knocked down in the first round or what it was, but it certainly riled him up, didn't it?
Yeah, that fella came to fight Nagy, and he put on a show, he was throwing punches from the fourth to the last bell. He stopped in the sixth. I think we were saying ourselves, he looked like he was wrecked from round one, but you were saying he probably just has one of those faces, because he kept coming, and it was a cracking fight. And once Hyland sort of sorted out his distance and got his range, he was too good for him.
Yeah, he certainly was.
The Friars,
good night.
Yeah, the Friars fight. I thought Friars was amazing. He was brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Jonny. He was very impressive, wasn't he?
Like coming forward, like taking everything on the glove, come forward. You just see in him. He has that sort of intelligence, and some stuff comes to him natural, yet some stuff he's just skilled in. Like he took everything, all them big bombs on the gloves early on, and that left hook he landed. It wasn't a Hail Mary, or it was just perfectly sweetly timed, and I think he admitted after himself, it was not one of them shots that kills anyone. It was just he didn't see it, and he was caught perfectly, and he just dipped him to the deck, and that changed the fight as well. Then he just became the aggressor. I thought Friars was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was very impressed with him. Before we move on, Jonny, just one word quickly. We can't go by without mentioning Joe Hillaby and Dee Taggart. Now, the two guys weren't exactly in the best of shape, I'm sure they'll be the first to admit, but Dee got his run out, and Joe Hillaby is a guy with skills, isn't he? If he can get down from that, he's ballooned up right up to cruiserweight. We know he had the injury and he's been out the ring for nearly 2 years, but he really needs to get back down to middleweight or light middleweight, and I think he can be a force.
He's talking about super middleweight, and definitely, and I think he was saying prior to it, he loves the old Irish battles, and he did take decent fights before, but as you say, he didn't show ring rust. I know Dee Taggart has been, just journeyman in it for the last while, but he showed accuracy and he kind of mixed it up. And the last time he was boxing with his hands down, and he was saying afterwards, he probably could have stepped it up and got the stoppage, but he definitely wasn't going to coast, and he was going to try to put on a bit of a show. And I think everyone was kind of impressed with his skill set, and even at, I'm not too sure if he bangs or not, but at super middleweight there could be some good Irish title fights from there. And I'm not too sure what aspirations he has beyond that, but even that, he's a great addition to the domestic scene, especially. And Tyrone McKenna as well.
Oh yes, I knew there was a seventh one, but I couldn't for the life of me remember who it was. Sorry, Jonny, I forgot about Tyrone. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you said he looked a bit Andy Lee, like, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I just thought in terms of, he's expected to win, but he kind of put a little bit more into the ring walk, and maybe after the show, he tried to catch the eye, not just in the ring, outside the ring, which I think is a kind of smart thing to do. People might, you just sense that, he wants to try to progress and catch the eye, and just little things he done, I suppose, before the fight, and he definitely seemed rolled up for that fight when they went head to head. I thought they said something at the weigh-in, but he just said, no, he was just eager to get a victory. What did you make of his performance?
I was impressed with him. I said he was Andy Lee. Like, obviously, there's a bit of a way to go, but we know he's been sparring with the likes of Matt Korobov, and when he was out in America, he was getting some really high-class sparring. What I was impressed with him about in this fight was that he used his size and reach advantages. In his first fight back in Ireland, he got dragged into the other guy's fight. He was trying to fight him on the inside, and he wasn't using his advantages, and we know he's a very tall guy for the welterweight limit, and when he got behind the jab and let things work, I thought they looked a lot better, and he stopped a guy there who has a bit of a strange record, actually, Istvan Kiss. He has 17 wins, 17 losses, 9 knockouts, knocked out 9 times. So he had a bit of a weird record, but he was reasonable enough. He's a guy who's been round the houses, he's been the 12 rounds, and he wasn't happy about getting stopped, but Tyrone dropped him, stopped him in the 3rd round, and I think if he can box to his strengths, he can definitely get to at least, Irish and British title level, perhaps.
Yeah, I would agree. I could maybe give a shout out. Whatever Mark said to the journeyman certainly seemed to work. I stayed in the hotel with them the night before, and I know they were definitely all off the bed early. They were in bed before I was going out, they were coming in. But
ever the pro.
But no, they all like Nagy. Well, we know what Horvath brings anyway from before, but Nagy and Kiss and they all put on the show. Maybe the fella Dee Walsh was fighting, hadn't got a hope, and lasted around. But the other lads seemed to be made for an entertaining fight.
Yep, as we say, Mark will be back out on June the 6th, and we're definitely looking forward to that one. He's trying to coax Niall up if he can as well, so you'll have to experience one of those shows some point, Niall.
No coaxing needed. I'll be up there as soon as I can, hopefully.
Make sure you sit in with the Hyland aunties, his fans.
Yeah,
he brings a good crowd with him.
Happy days.
He certainly does. But moving on from Mark Dunlop's show, actually, Niall, just briefly have a look at some of the other Irish boxers in action on the Friday night, March the 27th. It was actually on Box Nation, this one. Ryan Burnett got a 6-round points win. I think he's up to about 8-0 now. He's finally getting a few fights with Adam Booth. He was talked about, maybe just by me, nobody else, as maybe a sort of natural successor to Carl Frampton, maybe not at that sort of really elite level that Frampton's reached, but I always felt that Ryan Burnett had the talent to go all the way. And I suppose briefly it's just good to see him active, and he's fighting in America next, so we can finally see a bit of momentum in Ryan's career starting to take shape.
Yeah, big time. I can remember when he was with Ricky Hatton there, not long ago I suppose, really, when he was being trained by Ricky. I saw him that time during Gary Hyde's show up in Dublin last year, when Gary put on that show with Hassan and them. And
yes.
Yeah, he's really, I suppose on that particular night, he won the fight, but I'd say maybe that wasn't one of his best performances, but he really seems to be coming on, and all the talk about him is really positive. From what I've seen from him, he looks like he's definitely got the technical gifts to actually to go forward and hopefully become something special. And yeah, what is he? He's only 21 or 22 years old.
Yeah, he's about 22, I think. Yeah.
Jesus, he's got buckets of time on his side. If he's going out to America in his next fight at that age, getting that experience, that's fantastic stuff. And obviously, he can punch a bit as well. So he seems to have a lot going for him.
He's getting some quality sparring as well out in Monte Carlo, I think, Jonny, and it's all starting to come together for Ryan. It's about time, because he hasn't had the breaks, has he, so far?
No, he definitely didn't have to look at the start of it, waiting to get the licence, and then it was a bit stop-start. But the last twice, I didn't see the fight now on Friday night because I was up in Belfast and for some reason couldn't get Box Nation. But the last couple of fights I've seen prior to that, he looked red hot, and he's certainly banging. And I say he's really benefiting from being around Andy Lee and probably Adam Booth, and he's probably seen the best out of him. And I don't think he lacked confidence before, but he probably has more confidence in the tactical side of things, and he seems to talk a lot better now in terms of what he wants to achieve, what he does in the ring, and how he came about. And we worked on that shot, and it seemed to work. And I certainly see. Definitely, I would agree that we always talked about was his success at the Car Frampton, but I think he has the talent to definitely move up the ranks. Now, how long it takes, I don't know. but I'd say we probably see him in big fights next year.
Hopefully so. Jonny, one of our favourite fighters, the Pride himself, Anthony Fitzgerald, got a win over in Preston of all places on March the 28th against John Brennan. Seems quite a narrow one actually, 58-56 on the referee scorecard. Shows that Brennan was definitely in the fight. We know all about Fitzy. He just never ducks a fight, does he? He'll be waiting for the big opportunity. We mentioned maybe a bout with Dee Walsh even would be a good one. He'd take that, wouldn't he?
You would. He'd take any fight. And win, lose or draw, you'd be hearing about him the month after calling someone else out. It's just typical Fitzy. I watched that fight, and the first thing you notice is actually the Fitzy brigade where they're screaming and shouting as usual. They follow him everywhere. He'd big fan base anyway. And it was just typical Fitzy, like whoever he's fighting, it's kind of the same fight. If it's a journeyman, he's there, and it's a war. If it's a war level fighter, he's there looking for a war. It's just the same fight all the time. Like I think maybe he tried to put it on your man a bit earlier and tried to, try and get stoppage. But that fella wasn't a bad fighter. He was fighting. Didn't obviously at 29, obviously has one of the same aspirations as Fitzy, but I thought Fitzy dominated most of the fight, maybe looking to entertain in the last couple of rounds. He stood in the pocket a lot more, and he just seems to love a fight. I don't even think half time he's thinking about the scorecards, he's just thinking, well, this is a good fight, isn't it? And he's in there throwing.
Niall, like me, I know you're a great proponent that a loss shouldn't be the end of a fighter's career these days, and especially someone like Fitzy, he just has the right attitude. He got knocked out in a round in Dublin in November. You were there. Obviously, you saw it happen by Gary O'Sullivan. But Fitzy just gets back on the horse and keeps on plugging away, doesn't he?
Yeah, big time. I was delighted to see him get the win there at the weekend, and yeah, he looked in great shape as well. So it really showed that it didn't faze him whatsoever. And I suppose losing in such a fashion that he did would probably faze a lot of fighters, but I suppose it shows you how mentally strong Anthony is, really, when you consider the knockout he came back from, to actually come back in and just go back to work. Brilliant to see, and I hope he continues in that vein this year.
I think that's an important point. It was a real get back in your box knockout, after talking up Spike's out and what he's going to do to Spike, gets knocked out. You think that would end a lot of people, but not Fitzy. He's back straight away, or maybe mentally strong, or just mental. He just, and I think he's great for Irish boxing that way. That okay, one time he fought, he's in with Andy Lee or Hassan and Dan, but if the likes of Dee Walsh or whatever look to fight him, he'd take that fight and then he'd sell it too. He'd make it personal and he'd be telling him what he's going to do. And I think it could be, that would be a great fight. Well, not sure if we see it happening though.
Well, definitely one thing that I mean, we've seen Fitzy get knocked out before. I remember seeing him get knocked out, as I'm sure you did, Jonny, on that Bernard Dunn undercard against the Latvian guy, and in front of hundreds, and if not 1,000 of his own fans, right in his backyard, and he had the character to come back from that one.
Tomas Rowan tells a story. He was out the back. He didn't get to see that fight, so. When Fitzy was walking out, he just assumed Fitzy won. He's oh, well done, good win, Fitzy. he nearly took a slap himself.
Good old Tomas Rowan. There's a name from the past. I haven't seen Tomas for a good while now. I hope he's getting on okay. But speaking of Fitzy and his fights, one guy who's beaten Fitzy twice, the last time for the Irish title in Dundalk, is Eamonn O'Kane. Jonny, he's fighting on May the 2nd. We know it's the same night as Mayweather-Pacquiao. Whether it's an IBF eliminator, as was suggested, I don't think. He's up against the guy Lewis Taylor from England. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you if you know anything about Lewis Taylor, because I don't know a thing about him either, but it's going to be more about the occasion, isn't it? More about getting the people out there up in sort of Derry direction rather than the opponent. He's not being bought in to beat O'Kane anyway.
Definitely not, and he's not a puncher as well, and I think you don't want to be risking, because it mightn't be a world title eliminator, but if Hassan, as we said probably about on every show so far, if Hassan and Dan wins that belt, it's a direct route for O'Kane there to challenge for the title. So it's just to keep busy, keep winning, and test the waters down there. And he brings a big crowd from the prize fighter. I remember the Irish prize fighter that he won, the All-Irish prize fighter. He had a massive crowd after then, and he always brings people down with him. So I say it'd be a great atmosphere and a great crowd down. From what I hear, they're ringing around trying to make a decent undercard too.
Yeah, the undercard will be pretty decent. I know Niall, they were looking to get Michael Sweeney on, but I think he's injured at the moment. But like I said to Jonny, it's all about O'Kane in the main event. He's going to be an unlikely world title challenger if he ever does get his shot. But he might just end up as in against the like of Hassan and Dam. Stranger things have happened.
Definitely, and he's training there with Paddy Fitzpatrick, isn't he? George
Yes.
Groves is... how long has he been with Fitzpatrick? Is that like the last year or so?
One fight, I think, maybe.
Yeah, he left Bernardo Checker and he's had the one fight in Swindon, hasn't he, since? He won by knockout, that one.
Presumably he's probably getting some good sparring with Groves, I'd imagine. Like,
You would assume so, yeah.
He holds an amateur victory over Groves, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
yeah, big time. Like, if he can, crack on and get a world title, it'd be massive. And as Jonny was saying, like Hassan and Dam winning would be probably a direct route from,
Before we just have a brief word about the Dublin show, I was talking to somebody off the record, so I can't say too much about it, but apparently there's something in the offing for Cyclone. Are looking to sign somebody new, maybe branch out into the Scottish market. Like I said, it was all pretty much off the record stuff, so I'm just putting that out there. So some exciting times could be ahead for the old Cyclone Promotions by McGuigan stable. But Jonny, Dublin, May the 1st, we believe that there's going to be a show running. Is it in the Red Cow Hotel again?
Yeah, it was a good show there the last time. May the 4th, the Red Cow, you're looking at the Phil Sutcliffe, Stephen Carroll in the second fight, Jared Whitehouse I think in his third, Kieran Bates his second, Craig O'Brien, Matthew Wilton, Steve Collins Jr., and then even Matthew Wilton, Paul Quinn, Alfredo Melly and Kieran Bates. So it'll be interesting to see. It's got a mix of a Belfast or a Dublin vibe to it. And we were talking to Pat on Saturday and he was saying he's hoping to get a European rated fighter for Phil Sutcliffe Jr., which would be interesting too. It looks like Phil could start to kick on too. And the last Dublin show was a great show. The atmosphere was great and the journeymen they brought in were quality as well. They gave good fights and then I suppose it was topped off by Phil fighting a 7-0 or 7-1 fighter that was supposed to be tough and bring him the rounds and was out of there nearly in the second punch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that show. It's nice not to have to travel 2 hours up, 2 hours back. It's 4 in the morning job.
I'll have to travel 2 hours up and 2 hours
Yeah,
back for that one though.
There's less travelling for you than for us. So,
I know.
we just holiday in, show the Devonish, the Cyclone Pressers.
I know you put it in, man. There's no doubt about that. Definitely, no, I wouldn't dispute that. But the Red Cow seems to be a good little venue, doesn't it? And it generates a good atmosphere. And Alio's obviously decided to go again because it fairly fills up, doesn't it? It's a bit like the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, it's one of those. Like it seems small, but when it's full, it's a great atmosphere. I love the Holiday Inn show. Someone was telling me that only holds 400 or something, but they kind of rotate people in and out depending on who's fighting and.
Yeah, I think they've actually stopped them. I don't think the Holiday Inn are having them. I could be incorrect, but I don't think they're having any more shows in the Holiday Inn actually.
Yeah, they were cracking little shows. Like the atmosphere was brilliant at them. But like this is a good card here and some good prospects. And then it's always good to see Phil Sutcliffe out. And if Pat gets the fight he wants for him, he's going to be in a big enough fight, a European ranked fighter.
Before we move on to the world scene, just a brief word, Niall. Like I said, me and Jonny and David Mohan were talking to Pat on Saturday night. He's got a good little stable starting to gather there up in, Phil Sutcliffe down in Dublin and Tommy McCarthy up in Belfast. He's just struggling to get fights for them. He can't get a fight for Sutcliffe, so he's trying to push him down the European ranked title route already. And Tommy McCarthy's trying to push on towards the British scene, and he's just got guys turning him down left, right and centre. I think it's just a measure of the talent that these two fighters possess.
Big time. I watched Phil Sutcliffe, some of his fights. I had a good few times. Like, and I actually spoke to him briefly when I was up in Dublin there not too long ago at the Sky Sports show back in November. Just spoke to him briefly in between rounds, and like he's a massive talent. Like he'd know more about him than me, having kind of probably interviewed him. But I'd love to see him in there with someone really high level. Like, would you think there would be a possibility they could get him over to the UK even for a fight, like to give him exposure that way? Or
would be good, wouldn't it, Jonny, to get him over? I think one of the problems with Phil is he has problems with the hands. If the hands hold up, I could see him laying the hurt,
The hands are supposed to be brand new, but I think they've been trying to get him to England, and it just, Pat was saying that they saw someone fighting a Ireland show, 16-0, they rang him up trying to get him in with him, and people are just turning him down left, right and centre because they know he has a decent amateur pedigree, and then like he can bang. The sparring stories you hear about him, he's probably the hardest puncher, and you'd nearly put him in with a heavyweight, but when Chinese whispers are, and he'd have them knocked out. He's supposed to be lethal powerful, and he's a decent boxer, an amateur pedigree, and he has that little bit of spite about him too. In the ring, he's a lovely lad out of the ring, and Phil would probably be the best Dublin prospect at the minute, and wouldn't be too far off being one of Ireland's if he can keep his hands right. But by all accounts, they're sort of now one of Ireland's better prospects.
That's what I was going to ask you, Johnny. Like, do you think he could go on potentially to be a big star in Irish boxing one day? Like,
well, you probably see that with Pat will probably get him up the rankings, and if he's not selling tickets here, if he's not, he's probably fighting all over the place. And Pat is a great manager. You see what he's done for Brian McGee, but if Phil's hands are right, he could definitely go all the way. And even if he's in a dodgy fight and he's off his rhythm for 10 rounds, he can pull out that suck-out punch, as they call it now, in the 11th, 12th, and win a fight. He really looks like he has it all about him. And I know he's definitely living right, because he's not struggling to make any weight, and he's doing that sort of oxy fitness thing, and I think he does a bit of yoga and what have you. So he's definitely focused and all out for it now, because I know he got frustrated with his hands previously, and he kind of walked away from the amateurs for a year before he turned pro. But now he seems, intent on doing well, and I think he's a super talent. I don't know what you think yourself, Steve. We've seen him drop fellas in the amateurs.
Yeah, I remember his fight in the senior finals. I think it was a couple of years ago, maybe it was 2013 against Ross Hickey. That was just an awesome fight, wasn't it? The classic boxer against puncher. And I think, like you said, the hands in the end were just giving him that much grief. I think he was close to walking away from the sport full stop. But luckily, Phil Senior managed to turn him, change his mind. And there's definitely the potential for, even when he was an amateur, we could see the potential was there for a superb professional. He comes forward, he hits like a mule. It's just getting the fights. I mean, if he could just sneak onto one of these matchroom cards and Eddie Hearn could have a look at him, the way he did with Eamonn O'Kane, the way he did with John Joe Carroll recently, then you could see Phil being, signed up, and, well, not even signed up, he could stay with Pat, but chucked onto these cards. Considering some of the dross that Sky have been chucking out recently, you'd love a puncher like Phil shaking things up a bit.
I think once you see him once, I think that was probably what happened. And I think, no one said that, but I get the vibe from Pat that, Eddie Hearn would be alright to have him on the show, but I think he'd probably have to come in as opponent first, and that's the problem, is that no one with any sort of inkling of doing well or ambition wants to fight him. I think even Bradley Saunders said he was probably the best fighter he ever faced. I think they're 1-1 in the amateurs, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, there was a good amateur rivalry.
They're probably better off getting on to Bradley and telling him to shut up for a while.
You can do that, John.
Do it by the MGM. Is he still in MGM?
Has he left MGM now? Yeah.
Somebody else I was thinking of.
Yeah, we interviewed him there actually about a month ago. He was with MGM, but he's actually in between. He was in between changing trainers. He's still out there training, but he actually does some work as well in the UK. So I think he's back and forth, to be honest with you.
That could be a fight down the line as well.
Be a good one, wouldn't it, if they started building it up now, Niall?
He's boxing in a few days, isn't he, on that Anthony Joshua show in, it's actually his headline. It's in Newcastle next weekend, I think.
Did he not pull out that shot? No.
He's off,
I
think,
sorry,
yeah.
He is, yeah.
Dave Ryan is now fighting, is it Hibbert?
Yeah, sorry, he pulled out.
John Wayne Hibbert. Yeah, he's off that one, but by all accounts he looks like a real hot prospect, Bradley Saunders. I'd definitely like to see a lot more of him if we can. But I suppose, talking about Eddie Hearn, like you said, he's got the show coming up. There's a show coming up this weekend, but he had a show the weekend just gone in Sheffield, Niall, with Kell Brook, and I was very impressed with Kell. I don't know what you thought of him. I thought his accuracy and his punching power, he was just... I know Jojo Dan wasn't the greatest opponent ever, but for a mandatory defence, he took it. He showed no ill effects from this machete attack in Spain, and he's lining up the fight with Khan. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know, but Brook's really at the peak of his powers, isn't he, Niall?
Yeah, it was highly impressive for him, considering he suffered nearly a life-threatening injury, to come back in, and he just looked as good as ever. And like you said there, with the accuracy, he really seems like a man who thinks a lot about his work. Even though he's acting, he's throwing punches at the speed of light, he you can see there's a lot of thought going on behind a lot of it. And yeah, the jab he has, it's a weapon in itself. I think he nearly knocked Dan down with the jab alone at one point. I mean, he landed a solid left jab that like nearly put him on the floor. And I suppose Dan wasn't really a mug either. Like, I mean, Dan did fight his way to the mandatory position for the world title. Like, and yeah, like for Brook to come back in after a life-threatening injury and kind of brutalise him in 4 rounds was a testament to what kind of a talent he is. And I'd say as well now that you see Brook as world champion, he's probably one of those guys with, you know, with the confidence that brings, you'll probably see him kind of get better and better. Whereas before he became champion, he maybe, you know, wasn't as confident, but I think you'll probably see the best of him now. Like.
Jonny, Eddie Hearn was on a Sky interview today trying to put the pressure on Amir Khan. We know there's been a lot of back and forth between them. They obviously don't like each other. Khan seems to think he's in the elite class. He's been fighting in America a lot, and it would take a lot of money to tempt him over. Eddie Hearn's talking about 80,000 people in Wembley. I'm not convinced it would actually bring in that many, but either way, if it was made in somewhere in the north of England, it'd be a cracking atmosphere, it's a good venue, and it'd be a brilliant fight. Who would you pick if they were to fight?
I was really impressed with Khan last time. I don't know whether you can trust Kevin Alexander, so I wouldn't be 100% sure. Like Niall said, I was impressed with Cal Brook, because if we raving about Frampton doing what he did to his mandatory challenger, well, Brook has done something similar. But that's a massive weight division. Like, there's massive fights for him out there. I can't see Khan taking it. For some reason, I think Khan has more to lose, and the whole Khan pride-wise more to lose. He sort of lives off this being the best in Britain and probably the most recognised British fighter around the world. And he could really just hand that mantle over to Cal Brook. I think Khan doesn't want it. Not so much that he's not confident, but it's just too much of a risk for him. I know that sounds strange when you're getting paid so much money, but I think he's holding out for a Mayweather-Pacquiao fight as much as anything.
Well, after the fight on Saturday night, Niall, Brook was saying that he thinks Khan's a bit suspect around the whiskers. I mean, obviously, we've seen that is the case in years gone by, but Khan seems to have refined his style a bit under Virgil Hunter. He's got this world-class speed, but he's added a sort of defensive nous to his game. He's able to hold on, grab on, tie up, a bit like Chris Hughes at a higher level, and ride out the storm. Would Brook knock him out? Do you think Khan would be too fast for him? It's an intriguing stylistic matchup, isn't it?
I mean, Brook's pretty quick as well. Yeah, it's tough to say. I suppose he's got that hit and move style now under Virgil Hunter, where, as you say as well, he does tie people up. But you have to think, like, you know, you can't put muscles on your chin, and you know, he has been down the past. If a world-class puncher does connect on him again, will he go? Like Devin Alexander, probably not a world-renowned puncher. Cal Brook, you'd have to say, is, you know, he's up there for punching power. Like, I mean, well, he has something like 30-odd knockouts now, and I don't know. I kind of think that I'd lean towards Brook, to be honest, because I just think, I know it's a very close fight. Like, it would be a 50-50, but I agree. Like, as well with Jonny, like, the thing is, if Khan were to lose to Brook, Pacquiao and Mayweather is down to Swanee for him, whereas, you know, Brook really, I mean, yeah, like, there's more to lose probably for Khan at this point in his career, and Brook's the world champion, so yeah, I mean, they should just get it on, do a 50-50 deal. Khan's probably going to get paid a shed load of money, and there's a world title on the line, so, you know, yeah, I'd love to see it happen, and 80,000 would probably be, I don't know, would they have the lead time to actually promote something that big, being in April now, if they were doing it in June, but if they could get it maybe in an outdoor stadium that holds 30 or 40,000, that'd be quite impressive as well. Like.
Yeah, I think so. Eddie's talking about June the 13th, like you say. It might be a little bit too quickly, but I think one of the problems Khan has is that the Ramadan thing, but Ramadan apparently is around June the 17th, June the 18th.
Did they looking to do that June the 13th and then quick Frampton June the 20th?
Well, I would assume if Khan Brook was to end up on June the 13th, then quick Frampton would maybe be pushed back at some point. Like you say, you couldn't see them doing 2 back-to-back fights like that. We know that Sky, allegedly, I don't know if this is true, have been looking to do 5 or 6 pay-per-views a year, and we're already sort of hitting the March mark. I mean, it'd be a bit much, wouldn't it, to try and get people to shell out 2 weeks in a row, like you say, Jonny?
But at least it's not value cleverly followed by hey Harrison or something, you would pay out for it, I have to say.
Yeah,
I heard,
think about
I
that.
heard, I'm not sure, I saw it somewhere, it was on sort of a Spanish ESPN or something, I just saw something online there, that they're looking to do Cruz Rigondeaux as the chief support to Mayweather-Pacquiao. Did you hear anything about that, Niall?
Actually,
I
it's the
didn't,
first
Niall,
one.
did you?
Yeah, that's awesome. Jeez, that'll be amazing. First I
I
heard
don't know
it.
how. I've been flat out for the last couple of days, and I was up and down for Limerick today, so I haven't even looked through stuff properly. But I definitely saw it somewhere. I can't remember where now, but
That will be
Spanish.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it would be.
That would be like, talk about solving the Rigondeaux marketing problem. Like, that would be, you know, he'd be everyone would know who he is then. Like, and yeah, if he beat him on that platform, you'd have to think Quigg and the likes of Frampton would, there'd be no excuse not to fight him at that point.
People calling now are saying that Frampton is the main man, the mayor or Quigg don't have a patch on him. Did you see that?
Yeah, actually, I'd say there's a lot of mutual respect there after particularly their last fight. What a fight! Like, I mean, I was just at it. I wasn't covering it. I was just at it as a fan. Like, but what a night! Like, and I guess after a war like that, there has to be a huge amount of respect. Like.
I didn't hear the Martinez or the Rigondeaux-Santa Cruz thing actually, Johnny, but that would be excellent if they're able to pull that one off.
It definitely makes Rigondeaux more marketable for Frampton to fight then if he was to win then.
Well, we hope so, unless he completely shuts Santa Cruz there and a la the Donaire fight, and then he might find himself back to square one again.
Yeah, true. Or I wonder if Rigondeaux wouldn't take it. Would Frampton have a chance of taking it? It'd be too soon.
It'd be a huge platform, but it'd be too soon, I think, wouldn't it? I couldn't see any reason why Rigondeaux and Santa Cruz wouldn't want to fight on the biggest platform available. That'd be an excellent chief support, I would say. Definitely. But talking of things that were going on today, I actually saw an interview, I don't know if you guys saw it, with Andre Ward on Sky, and he was saying that he's willing to go over to the UK to fight Carl Froch in a rematch. I mean, Johnny, Ward's been out for so long, we sort of forgot about him a little bit. We know that he's not tied up with the network, he's been trying to get out of these promotional issues. He's undisputably the best guy at the weight. He's already schooled Froch once, and Froch has obviously receded since then. He's had 2 tough fights with George Groves. Would the rematch be any different? Is it something you would want to see?
No, I don't obviously want to see Ward back and Ward in big fights, but that doesn't overly appeal to me. And maybe it is because he's kind of off the radar for a while, Ward. But when you think back to the last fight, it wasn't Froch has been in some very entertaining fights, but that definitely wasn't one of them. The skills basically by Ward. I'd love to see Froch Golovkin. I just think that'd be a great fight.
If Froch were to fight Golovkin, Niall, how do you think that one would end up? I know there's the weight issues, and Golovkin's not the biggest, maybe for super middleweight, but Golovkin's such a beast. We're going to have to see him getting in with somebody of Froch's ilk to try and see if the power is for real.
That's true. I mean, when Arthur Abraham moved up from middleweight to super middleweight, he wasn't like as scary as Golovkin, but he was a renowned puncher, and he kind of got exposed then, like when he made the jump to super middle. So maybe that is a legitimate fear, like. But yeah, Froch was actually quoted. I don't know if you saw it the other day. He did an interview with Coogan from IFL, and he actually caught him outside the Sheffield Arena as he was driving away from the place.
Very redneck style, wasn't it?
Yeah. What did he say? He asked him, like, how did you get on with him? And he said to him basically that he's too small, and he said he was confident that he'd win. But I don't know. Maybe Froch has been in a lot of wars at this point in his career, like, and Golovkin's the man on the way up. To be honest with you, I don't see why Froch would fight Golovkin. Represents too much danger. Probably not as much money as he'd get for fighting other guys as well. So I think Golovkin will probably flatten him, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so.
Fitzy agreed to fight Golovkin before. I'm serious.
That's right, I remember that actually.
He wouldn't throw down any fight. What Froch don't have it, Fitzy will have it. He
But I
did.
suppose, Johnny, sorry, regarding Andre Ward, I mean, he said that he's happy to go to the UK, but he doesn't want to go to Nottingham, because Eddie Hearn had mentioned a fight in the City Ground, Nottingham Forest Ground, in front of 40,000 people. I mean, would it really matter if the fight was in London, Manchester, or whatever? If he's going to get jobbed in the UK, he's going to get jobbed. I don't know why he's so averse to going to Nottingham in particular.
Yeah, it does seem strange. Unless in America, is it different than fighting if you fight in New York or the East Coast or the West Coast? You can get jobs. You're probably thinking along those lines. It doesn't make sense wherever it is in the UK. Unless he's using that as a no, that doesn't make sense because he doesn't. He take the fight. He doesn't want to now. Like you're going to the UK, you're going to the UK. Unless he's looked at the bout they fight and thought he can front super strength or something. The atmosphere, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, Butte was just exposed in that one, and then of course the Jean Pascal fight I think was in Nottingham. The second Kessler fight was in Nottingham as well. I wouldn't have thought it would have made much difference, to be honest with you. But I mean, I would like to see Andre Ward and Niall maybe move back up to light heavyweight and try and tackle Kovalev. I mean, is that just wishful thinking?
Yeah, it'd be brilliant. Like, I suppose Kovalev and Stevenson, he'd represent a very, very legitimate case like for beating either of them. And I think, what was the last time he boxed a light heavyweight when he absolutely took Chad Dawson to absolute school and he stopped him. So he has fought at that weight before and he's proved himself basically at both weights, super middle and light heavyweight. Like, so, yeah, I'd love to see it. It would be an intriguing fight. You'd have to say that maybe Ward would have the skill advantage, but he's been out of the ring a couple of years now. You'd have to think he's going to need one or two warm-up fights before he goes in near any big names, really.
Warm up with Bellew.
Yeah.
Really?
did you see Tony Bellew? The Tony Bellew interview the other day. He was interviewed on IFL, and they were asking him about the whole rumours that he got in a punch up like on set, like when he was in Hollywood, and he wouldn't comment on it anyway. But it was vintage Tony Bellew, like full of personality, just absolute legend, to be honest. Just had to throw that in there.
He's crazy, isn't he, Bellew?
Talk's a great fight, alright, yeah.
He doesn't fight well now, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I always fought for it, always. So I don't even watch his interviews anymore. I'm thinking this fella's coming for war. And then we get that dross.
Well, if Bellew cleverly gets made on pay-per-view, Johnny, I'm going to personally come round and hide your remote control to save you from yourself. But before we wrap up, lads, Niall, we were briefly talking off air about the fight stateside over at the weekend, I believe. You saw the Gary Russell, Johnny Gonzalez fight. Were you impressed or maybe even surprised like I was? If there was going to be a knockout in that fight, I thought it was going to be Gonzalez doing the knocking out, not Russell Jr.
Yeah, big time. Like, he dropped him a number of times. Like, to actually stop him in 4 rounds was, I don't think anyone saw that coming. Gonzalez, obviously a seasoned campaigner, that highly respected champion, to get absolutely demolished like that really went against the grain. And Russell Jr., like we were saying, like, I mean, that tight loss he had to Lomachenko last year kind of shows you the class of Lomachenko, and it shows you as well, the quality of Russell, because he obviously pushed Lomachenko to the limits. And just big win. Like, I mean, in the featherweight division, you'd have to think maybe if Frampton or if Quigg, like any of those guys, like were to move up to featherweight the next year, that's another big fight potentially for Frampton out there, or Quigg or whatever. And brilliant performance. Like, to actually do that to him was unbelievable. I think as well, didn't Gonzalez beat Abner Maris not too long ago, basically in the first round, like. So, like, I mean, that will kind of put into perspective, like, the significance of that win. And just as well, Steve, Nonito Doran had a good comeback victory there at the weekend as well. He won in the second round knockout against a relatively unheralded chap by the name of William Prado.
Was that super bantamweight on?
It was for the vacant, it was the NABF super bantamweight title. It was over in the Philippines. So that was the first time he fought since he lost to Walters. So yeah, like I saw as well when you were saying about the Rigo Cruz thing. I saw there was talk straight away of a Donaire Rigo rematch. Well, Donaire was calling for it like at the weekend, but whether or not that'll happen, he's probably a bit way off that. Like.
Yeah, I think Donaire, it's good to see him back down at super bantamweight. I know Shane McGuigan was mentioning him after the last Frampton fight as a potential opponent, and I wouldn't be averse to seeing Donaire maybe being the sort of gateway to Frampton going over to America, but I think, as the Americans would say, Rigondeaux took his soul that night, and I don't think he's looked the same fighter ever since, even in the Darchinian rematch, which he was at least drawing, maybe arguably losing, until he knocked out a very faded Darchinian. Then he had that sort of farcical fight with Vetieka when it ended on the cut. And this guy, like you were saying, William Prado, he wasn't any great shakes, because I think Scott Quigg knocked him out in about 3 rounds a couple of years ago, so it was just pretty much a keep busy fight. Would a Rigondeaux Donaire fight interest you, Jonny, the rematch, or maybe Frampton Donaire even?
Frampton, with all that information, you'd say Frampton Donaire because it gives him the gateway to America, and it doesn't look like the fight it was, would have been 3 or 4 years ago or more now. I don't know. What date was the Rigo Donaire fight? Or what year?
It was in April anyway. I remember 2 years ago in April. So,
April 2013 would it have been?
And I agree with you. He's definitely sold the slide after that totally. So I definitely think that was one that you'd be looking for if you want the Cyclone to try and make that one, because it is a big name and a gateway. And he was named pound for pound top 5, maybe top 3 at the time, wasn't he?
Didn't he win? He won the American Fighter of the Year award.
Yeah.
That was 2012, then it would have been, wasn't it? I think it was the year before he lost to Rigondeaux.
Yeah. Yeah, he won four fights against pretty high level competition, all inside the distance. To win that award, I remember him getting that award, alright, and then of course Rigo absolutely kind of schooled him, and I guess that's lost on a lot of people, that he was basically, I think he was rated pound for pound top 5 by most people around that time.
I think he was up around 3, and he was just after Mayweather-Pacquiao, maybe.
Yeah.
At the time, in some people's rankings, yeah, and so it's a great fight for Frampton. I think I still want to see Frampton stop Quigg first off.
Are we going to see, I suppose we'll segue there before we finish. We haven't had any Frampton talk really this pod, but Jonny, you first I suppose. Is this Frampton Quigg thing ever going to happen?
I think it has to. It's insane not to do it now, especially unless something big comes along, but I think it has to, and you're not going to hear anything from Cyclone. You're never going to even get any leaks or whispers or rumours, or just, they do the business where they announce it when it's announced, where you'll hear little bits from Eddie popping out and Quigg having a pop, and this, but we won't hear anything from Cyclone, so I suppose we won't know till it's announced, and with them not sort of dropping hints or anything, we really don't know where negotiations are, because Eddie can throw digs out there and put whatever, try and put pressure and manoeuvre things the way he wants, and try and make it look like that they're doing their best, and the obstacles are coming the other end. When you're not hearing nothing from the other end, you're only getting one side of the story. But it has to happen. Don't say it's not happening.
Well, you'd think so. We like to think so. Does silence Niall mean, is that a good thing? Do we think they're working behind closed doors? There was supposed to be a meeting, I think last Wednesday. We haven't heard anything about that. Should we just assume that it's been sorted out behind closed doors, and we're hoping there's going to be an announcement?
Possibly. I mean, before the Mayweather-Pacquiao thing was announced, it did go silent for a good 4 or 5 days. I'm not saying it's anything on the level of that fight, but yeah, I guess sometimes in this boxing business it seems like when guys go silent, they're actually doing work and they're actually trying to make something happen. So I tend to look at the glass half full, and please God, it'll happen.
I think that's just the way Cyclone works. Steve, they just when it's announced, and that's when the media are here.
Yeah, I suppose that's the best way of doing the business.
Yeah.
Well, probably not great for us sometimes, but we like a bit of gossip. But no, it's probably the right way to do things, and that's the way they operate.
It's very professional company, they seem like, and big time, just professional people, and not going to give us any hints.
Exactly. Well, we'll just have to fill the vacuum with some rumours, I suppose, then, in the meantime, and just make something up. Unless there's any other business, then, lads, we'll wrap up. Is there anything else that I've missed?
No, I think that's
Excellent stuff. Well, it's been great chat as always. We've made it to number 6, so we're doing pretty well. I'll just say a get well soon to Tyrone McKenna, who was hoping to join us, but he's not feeling too well. So hopefully, poor. I do, Johnny. I do feel sorry for him.
I'm up covering the Belfast. He's down in football, getting free drink all weekend.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, that's what it was. So no, sorry for him.
Why aren't you on here then, Derek?
Well, we'll get him next week.
We'll get him next week.
Number this week. He gets free drink for 2 days.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get Derek on next week. We'll, all being well, be running again next Monday evening. Hopefully, lads, we'll be having we'll be down to Andy Lee, Peter Quillen review territory by then, won't we?
That's getting close now.
That's on April the 11th, isn't it? So I'm hoping to get Adam Smith on, who's a betting guru, so he's going to give us the odds for Lee Quillen and break that down, and maybe get somebody else on if we can to discuss that one. So that should be an excellent fight. But I'd like to extend my thanks definitely, of course, to you two guys, as always, the panel members, for coming on and giving some great discussion, but especially to Mark Dunlop as well, who jumped on and gave us the lowdown about his show last weekend and just let us know what's going on with his fighters coming up. He's running another show in June, as we know, so thanks very much, Mark, if you're listening, for coming on and joining us. Johnny, if you want to tell us where people can find you and what projects are going on at irishboxing.com, there's always something going on, isn't there? Usually 100 things going on.
That's the thing, there's 100 things, so I probably wanted to pick one out of the hat now. It was a busy weekend. The Facebook page went a bit, or the profile went a bit wonky, and a few people are emailing us. For some reason, Facebook made us change it into a page, so you can still find it there at Irish Boxing website. Just to let people know that, and all the stories are there. And we'll probably, when Derek gets better, he'll probably have all that fixed by tomorrow then.
Just business as usual then.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. And you're on Twitter at Johnny Hips?
Johnny Hips, yeah.
No problem. And irishboxing.com as well for the site. We'll get that up in the show notes. Niall, for now, Niall Doran at Doran's Boxing Blog. Obviously, there's going to be a big announcement next Tuesday, I believe, where you have some exciting news. I know you're not going to reveal anything now, but there is something in the pipeline.
Yeah, I suppose it's not really a big announcement as such, but to me it is. Yeah, like it's basically a new website. Like we'll have a new name, new logo, totally new web design. A lot better than what we have at the moment. All the social media pages are going to be changed. And actually on Facebook there, Johnny, if you ever do decide to change the name of your Facebook page, it's not that easy to do. It basically Facebook make you wait 2 weeks before they even let you know. So next Tuesday there we'll be just kind of launching a World Boxing News website, and just like covering our own kind of stories, like maybe 3 of the biggest World Boxing News stories today, and just see what we can do. And it's a cool enough name and a cool logo, so hopefully people think it's okay.
Well, hopefully so. I don't want to put anybody off, but I will be contributing and involved as well in the new website. Niall, I don't know if that's if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Go on, Steve. I'm delighted with that. Thank you.
Excellent stuff, that's great. Well, thanks very much everyone for listening as usual. We've had Johnny, we've had Niall, we've had Mark Dunlop, and we'll be back again next Monday evening. So if anybody wants to call in, just add me, Steve.Wellings, on Skype, and you can have your say. We'll be going hopefully around the sort of 9 point next Monday if we can. Derek should be back with us if he can make it off his sick bed. And so if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Twitter at IrishBoxReview. Or you can come over to the website, irishboxingreview.com, download all the books or buy them if you want to. There's 4 at the moment, and number 5's actually coming out in the summer, so we'll be looking forward to that. And we'll catch you again. Thanks ever so much for listening, and see you next time.